What is up, bro? Ladies and gentlemen, we're on the new era, the Graveyard Sports Talk, man. We got my first guest of the new show, Lil Steve from NorCal Sports Network. What's up, man?
Yes, sir. What's going on, CG? I love the intro, man. I could talk wrestling, man. You got some Undertaker music going.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
he's
I'm
one of my
OG.
top
I'm
favorite
OG
people.
with wrestling, man. I could go there as well.
Yeah, we got since the Niners ain't trying to feed off of these championship vibes, man. We got to feed off of this type of pictures, man. I hate looking at the Rams and the Chiefs, bro, but it's got to motivate us a little bit. You know what I mean?
It does, and it's just like we got to get there. We got to get back to being at the top, not close to the top, but being at the top where we deserve to be. So
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah. It's good to see you do your shows. I know you've been on different platforms, but I've been kind of quiet on my show, but let's do a review of the Niners season. This is an off season for the 49ers, man. So
Yeah.
give me your thoughts of the season, man. We all had all high expectation for a chance for a Super Bowl run, but that didn't happen. You know what I mean?
I mean, I probably had a little bit lower expectations than most because, I just saw that the Niners have played a lot of games over the last 5 years, and when you're playing, going deep in the playoffs and you're playing 2, 3 extra games every year, that kind of wears on you. I know their core was getting a little bit older. I was looking for them to make a really big splash on the off season, and while they had a good draft, I wasn't crazy about some of their free agent moves. So I thought that this year that they may struggle a little. I didn't anticipate it was going to be as bad as it was, and I didn't think they would get as injured as they ended up being. But I didn't think that they would get back to the Super Bowl. CG. I thought like they would make the playoffs and get knocked out was where kind of my bar was, and it ended up being a little bit lower than that. So, a disappointing season, definitely, and something that they need to be able to correct, build on, and get better in so many different areas. They have a lot of work to do. It's more than just a tweak here and there for sure.
Yeah, it is. Just going from a different DC wasn't quite a good transition. They just thought that a guy within our house was going to be doing exactly like how you would have the previous years with the two first DCs. But I don't know. Nick Sorensen just kind of gave me some bad vibes. When I saw that promotion from Nick Sorensen, I just wasn't feeling this promotion. I even called it off and said, this ain't going to work out. And I was getting called a lot of crap for that. And I said, I just don't see it work with this guy.
The first time I saw and heard his interview, like I was not impressed. I was watching Spicoli from Fast Times at Ridgemont High. It's like, damn, man, this motherfucker's high as fuck as I'm on here in this interview. You don't know what he's talking about. Is this really our D coordinator? Is this really supposed to be an upgrade over, Steve Wilkes, who was, he's known. He's been a successful coordinator. He's been a very good defensive back coach in this league. And I didn't see the upgrade. I saw a downgrade. I saw Shanahan kind of like picking a guy that he's comfortable with or that he gets along with. And I wasn't crazy about it. So that got off to a real kind of shaky start for me as far as like moving off of an established defensive coordinator to somebody that is very, very unproven.
Yeah, very unproven just because he was a journeyman and played defense. And he was mostly a special teamer. But now they're trying to consider him as a special teamers.
Yeah.
That's got to be a joke. Because if I was looking at the Jacksonville Jaguars special teams track record that one season with him, he was in the bottom of special teams. So I don't know, man. That's a little too far to give him another chance.
Yeah, I don't know when they're looking at these resumes and there's, obviously not very good numbers that are showing on it, how they're thinking, oh, well, this guy's really going to work out. I mean, at the end of the day, you got to have the talent. I mean, Salah's, expected to be back if he doesn't take a head coach, but people got to remember, if they think just Robert Saleh is going to come back and the defense is going to be top 5 again, they need the talent. They need the horses. They had a young Nick Bosa on that, team. They had D Ford healthy. They had DeForest Buckner on that D line. So Robert Saleh is a good defensive coordinator, but he had talent, and the Niners need that talent to go with whoever they pick.
Yeah, I feel like the one thing that's kind of holding us back right now is we're kind of making it sound like we're making a handshake deal with Robert Saleh and say, hey, do what you got to do, but are you going to come here or something? But I think we're missing out on other interviews for sure.
I agree. I don't know why they're just limiting and putting all their eggs in Robert Sala's basket. And if he, goes and takes a head coaching job, that plan B is going to be, Brandon Staley, which would be a joke, in my opinion. I like to look at the former coach of the Bears. I can never pronounce his
Matt
name. Eberflus. He's a proven defensive-minded guy, and I would like to kick the tires on him. Dennis Allen was interesting. There are some other names out there, and I don't quite understand the whole, Robert Saleh or bust. I just think that's limited, and it's a mistake.
And if Kyle said he was willing to open on the defensive changes, man, you could have done more interviews. But Lou Amarillo was another good candidate, but he happened to go to the Colts.
Yeah, it's kind of hard to take Kyle at his word. Like, he says a lot of things at press conferences, and they're not true. So I don't see him as really a guy that changes very much. So you may say in the press conference and tell us what we want to hear, but
prove us.
Seeing and doing is two different things, man.
Yeah. Prove us wrong or otherwise.
That's right.
I mean, there could have been different ways how he could have changed it, but you know what needs to change, which I think a lot of us can all agree, is we got to fix that offensive line. That offensive line has been a big issue, and that starts with the center, man. I've been throwing his name out there since he was even the starter, and the funny part was I got that dude to block me just because I called him out.
Man, I'm telling you, like, people don't want to hear opinions if it doesn't agree with them necessarily. It's a sad state of how social media is, and shows the Ralph Tresvant sensitivity that too many of us have. But I'm with you, man. Like, the offensive line is the meats and potatoes of your team. It's like tires on a car. Like, I could have a nice stereo and look at my
move.
Yeah, but man, my tire, I got like four, tires when you get a flat. I got four of them on, and Trent Williams is the only nice tire that I have. So I've never understood that. Center is such a underrated position. That's the quarterback of your offensive line. And when you have a smaller quarterback like Brock Purdy, who, he does not have the biggest arm in the world. He cannot make a throw falling back like Mahomes, like Josh Allen, and fling it 30 yards, 40 yards. He needs to step up and be able to get velocity on that throw. And if you got a small center like Jake Brendel getting pushed around and getting, pushed right into him, that's just a bad combination. So I've never understood the infatuation with Jake Brendel. And they better upgrade that O-line this offseason, or it's going to be another iffy year.
It is, because I think that's the problem that I've been pointing on Jake Brendel for quite some time. His pass blocking is unpredictable. He even misses a lot on his run block assignments. And every time I point the issue, I remember asking Jake Brendel a simple hypothetical question on Twitter. And all he had to do was just either ignore it, but he blocked it, didn't even give me the answer. I said, what were you doing on this play against the Falcons?
Yeah, take accountability, man.
Or like the great John Chapman would say, he's the all-time watcher. Come on, this guy watches a freaking play, man.
I think maybe if Feliciano was healthy going into the year, I think that might have been, at least he could have given Brendel a run in OTAs and practice. And I think maybe they could have saw that Feliciano would be just a better option there, because Feliciano goes 320. He's a big dude. And then Pooney came in and kind of came out of nowhere. That would have been nice to have Feliciano and Pooney next to each other. Banks had a little bit of a down year, but he's a big dude too. I don't know what they're going to do with him, but I think CG, they just need to get bigger, man. I know the whole outside zone run blocking is Kyle's baby, but sometimes at the end of the day, you need to have big men that just, like, on basic fundamental plays, like 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2. Third and inches, 4th and inches, just move the dude in front of him and get a first down. You can't always go behind Trent.
Yeah, you got to have to get another Trent, or at least somebody that's as better. I mean, when you're stuck with Colt McKivitz, who's okay, that's not going to cut it. I mean, you look at we were just lucky to hit on Dominic Pooney. We were just kind of like, oh, okay, we'll get you guys an offensive line, kind of draft talk, like, okay, we got you a lineman, shut up.
Yeah, and
that's what it seems like. That's what the pick was when we got Pooney.
Yeah, it was just kind of, okay, we're tired of hearing you guys talk about us not addressing it. We're going to just do it in the 3rd round. And he wasn't even planning to really start and play. He only played because Burford got hurt and Feliciano got hurt.
Yep.
And that's kind of Kyle's MO. Like, you get these young guys that are talented, and the only time they play and really show their worth is when people get hurt. I bet Jalen Graham could be a pretty good linebacker, but we never see him. D. Winters finally saw the field. It's like, you really told us that Devondre Campbell was the answer because he gave him $5 million and he was a free agent. So,
Yeah.
Why do you draft these guys if you're not going to play them? Why?
Yeah, he wastes too many draft picks. Like, dude, he even goes early on these running backs too. Like,
early, when you can get them later
or undrafted at least. But I will say the Garendel pick actually turned out okay because at least he can showcase as a good receiving back and he can actually show you some big runs. But he's still a work in progress. But I would say Kyle did hit pretty well on that pick. Okay.
They had a good draft this year. It was their first good draft in a while. But they need to have another one like that this year. And I would like to see them, CG, kind of, old school 1986 draft where they moved back a few times and they just got a lot of players and they got a lot of starters in that draft. So, the Niners are kind of weird because, when you look at other teams, they have like one general manager and, that's the dude that's making the picks. With the Niners, you don't know who it is. Like last year, was it Adam Peters? Was it Kyle? Was it John Lynch? Was it, an intern in the back that, is unnamed? We don't know. So we know that Kyle likes certain types of players, and like a Ricky Pearsall seems to have his name written all over him. But to be honest, I would like Kyle to do more coaching and less drafting and talent evaluation. Let the scouts do their job because the Niners seem to hit more in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round than they do rounds 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah, that's the thing with Kyle. He likes to go for those early picks and think those guys are sure things. So it's like, but then when, like you said, day 3, we hit pretty well. So I don't have an issue with how we go on day 3. I feel like the day 3 picks are probably the ones we get the most out of, like, especially with Malik Mustafa, who's actually going to be our starter going forward. I feel like we finally got ourselves a starting caliber cornerback, bro. Like, it's been so long since we even drafted a cornerback this high since Shante Spencer. So that's like a long time ago. But the last time we got a first round corner was when I actually interviewed Mike Rump once upon a time. But man,
that's a long time back in the day. University of Miami, right?
Yeah, University of Miami. But the last time we drafted a cornerback that high in the second was Shante Spencer, who went to Pitt. But Ronaldo Green's got some good flashes.
Akilla Witherspoon was a 3rd round pick, wasn't he?
Yeah, from Colorado. Yep.
And he had good size, and he kind of had up and down time with the Niners, but he's kind of balling and playing well right now.
Yeah, he was stepping in pretty well. Maybe the way how we treated him and put him in the doghouse was not a good way to go. And
that's something that is happening far too often. Is like our young guys are getting very frustrated and discouraged coming here, not being given a chance, and then they'll go to another team where there's something about mentally when you just have a lot of confidence in a player that the player's confidence is everything, and when you have the coaching staff in the front office that has confidence in you, then that goes a long way. And when they don't, it can go the other way as well.
Yeah, it could. But especially how Kyle is, man, he doesn't give these young guys a chance. Like using the draft, we don't play a lot of these rookies, and we usually put them as redshirt sometimes, depending on how our veterans play. But it's kind of discouraging for some guys. Like maybe you could have seen more of Danny Gray if he would have had chances to play, but he never got a chance to see the field. We were looking at Jacob Cowan, what he could be, but man, just imagine if he would have played more.
Yeah, he hasn't materialized anywhere else in the league, has he, Danny Gray? Nobody picked him up.
I don't think so. But
he was one fast dude coming out of SMU, and I think that's something the Niners need to address. Is they just need more team speed. They're an older, slower team, and it kind of shows when they play faster teams. It shows up very glaringly. And a lot of their competition moving forward into the coming years are younger, hungrier, faster teams, and that's why they need this draft to get a little bit of speed, not just on offense but on defense as well.
Yeah, especially on the defensive line, we're gonna need some young, fresh faces and some fast guys that can get to the quarterback or at least be a nice solid depth piece. But it's kind of been like what you said, like in the offseason of last year, we weren't able to get like a lot of the big name guys, but Hargrave is going to be gone. So we paid a lot of money for this guy, and he hasn't really panned out. So it's kind of like
And
a hit or miss.
I didn't understand that move, bro. To be honest, like he was just strictly a pass rusher, and you paid $20 million for a guy that is a one trick pony, and they're wondering why they can't stop the run because they lost Greenlaw to injury. They put in they lost Armstead, who was a good player, not a great player, but he was good against the run.
Yeah.
You lost DJ Jones. These are guys that Jimmy Ward at the safety came up and played the run real well. They Al Shair. I mean, they lost a lot of guys that play the run well, and that's fundamental. That's first and foremost. If you can't get to 3rd and 7 and 3rd and 8 and turn your pass rushers loose if they're getting 4 and 5 yards on 1st and 2nd down, running the ball all the time. So they had a very incorrect philosophy there when it came to free agents.
I mean, yeah, because a lot of it, just some of the guys that we brought in, they just weren't quite good run stoppers. Like, no offense to Malik Collins, he seems like a solid pass rusher. He's an okay run stopper, but he's not consistent like the other guys. Like you see that he can blow up on film, and then you see it with what is it? Jordan Elliott kind of he doesn't seem like a run stopper like everybody was putting it as the Pro Football Focus. He just seems more like a hit and miss on the run stop,
Well, let me ask you something. With both players, I was kind of excited about both of them, Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott, when I kind of watched them on film at Cleveland and Houston, respectively. What about this? In Cleveland and Houston, they have a different philosophy. Here, we teach the Y9, and it almost seems like Kacherik, our defensive line coach, almost teaches the linemen to just rush up field first and foremost to try to get after the quarterback. Whereas maybe the philosophies of those other two teams were, more of a, read and react. Like, okay, it's definitely a run or it's definitely a pass and let me go. Because Malik Collins and Jordan Elliott really showed out in when I watched his film in Cleveland. He was a run stuffer. And then he comes here, and I know he got dinged up a little bit, and he was just a non-factor at all. So I'm guessing maybe the philosophy, didn't quite fit the player, which happens sometimes.
Yeah, it does, especially with the Y9. Like you just said, this is a different kind of scheme we run compared to what they were at. Like, when I like that we got Malik Collins in that trade because we only gave up a 7th-round pick or a swap, whatever it was. But
right.
that was a steal. So,
right.
I mean, yeah, the Y9 it seems outdated for our talent, dude. We don't have the guys to perform to that Y9. We don't have an Eric Armstead that could take a lot of that stuff. We don't. We have. We're just kind of. We might have to change up the scheme off of the Y9 a little bit, unless we get some guys that fit the scheme.
I think that's something that we don't talk a lot about, and maybe is one of the reasons why the Niners are struggling a little bit. Outside the injuries, is they're very scheme oriented. CG. By that I mean, like, maybe they're drafting players that just fit the scheme instead of being just more talented players. You know what I mean? Like, if there's an offensive line on the board at 11, like a Banks from Texas, that is very well thought of by most experts, and they reach for a guy that maybe is going to be a 2nd-round pick in offensive line because maybe he's more fluid, more more mobile, a little smaller. See, to me, that's a mistake. I think Trent Williams is a large man, and there are big guys that are agile. And like I said, at the end of the day, offensive linemen need to be able to move the guy in front of them, straight ahead blocking on those short yards. Because the Niners struggle, and man, they throw too often when they need 1 or 2 yards instead of just being able to get that, run the ball and get that yards needed. And then that's a lot of the reason why Kyle blows leads, is because he has to throw all the time. And running keeps the clock going, and clock is your friend when you're in. Period.
Yeah, like that's the main frustrating part. Like, if it's third and short, maybe you could just run it instead. But Kyle tries to be more of a pass. He kind of like expects Brock to be this Superman at times, which is not him. And the one thing I kind of do have a knock on Brock a little bit is sometimes it's okay to do some check down passes, man. Why are you trying to throw downfield at times, man, or just run around? It's not that hard, man. Like as much as people want to say Jimmy G was what he was, but at least he was smart enough to do the check downs.
You got to have balance. You bottom line is your strength that everybody talks about. I'm talking about Brock Purdy is your ability to process and read a defense. So if they're giving you outside passes towards the hash marks, towards the sidelines, take it. If they're playing you in a 2 or 3 deep zone and they're giving you the underneath and it's going to get you 7 or 8 yards easy, take it. There are other guys you can throw to underneath besides McCaffrey. Like a lot of times when Mason was starting and playing real well, I saw Mason wide open. Nobody was near him, CG, for like 8 to 10 yards. And instead, he was throwing into double coverage, trying to get the ball to Jennings or Debo.
Yeah.
And, it's just like you're smarter than that. Like you don't have the most physical, best attributes that some of the bigger, stronger quarterbacks has. And that's okay. Use what you have, which is your vision and your ability to process a defense. And take what the defense gives you and you'll be fine.
Yeah, and that's what he needs to work on at times. It's okay to be a check down quarterback at times.
Yeah.
I mean, especially if it's 3rd and long and if you need those 8 yards to get the first down and it's just this amount of yards of separation, then give the ball to them. I feel like that's something that Brock has to evolve more. Like sometimes you might have to just go that route if nobody's open going deep, but he tries to be the hero at times, and that's sometimes where he kind of like makes a little bit mistakes here and there, but I feel like his game's good. It's just do your check downs at times or just throw it away if you're going to hold on to the ball a little longer.
Guaranteed he's going to be a Niner and get a long-term deal?
I believe so. I think that's the question that everybody's kind of curious about, like what kind of contract he's going to have. It's like I don't think he's going anywhere. A lot of these fans keep saying, oh, let's trade him to another team or let's let him play the rest of his contract. I just don't think it works that way, man. He's actually kind of like in position to get himself a contract. And do you think he's going to want to play with this contract currently?
Not at all. God, he's making about as minimum wage as you can make in the NFL. I don't know about this rumor about Tennessee offering the number 1 pick, but would you consider that if you were the GM? The number 1 overall pick? You could do a lot with that. You could trade back and really get a lot of stuff.
It just seems like it's kind of like a Mike Florio thing, man. Like this is something this is the difference between, this is where I separate myself from a dream to a reality. But
right.
if we were going to play GM and if they were to offer us a 1st round pick, would you take it? Absolutely, dude. Like a last pick of the draft becomes the 1st round pick for our trade. That would be insane. But then we go back to square one. We got to look for a quarterback.
Yeah. At the end of the day, like that's what you have to win a Super Bowl. It's in today's age. I mean, in my age, growing up in the 80s and 90s, when defenses were actually allowed to hit to people, you can get by with a decent quarterback and just a shutdown defense like, the Bears had, like the New York Giants had. But those days are gone. Everything is predicated and favored toward the offense. And you need to be able to have a really good, not just a really good quarterback, I think, to win a Super Bowl now.
Yeah. Like the Trent Dilfers of those days, those are behind us now.
So. Those days are gone, pretty much.
I mean, yeah, you're going to need a really good quarterback, and you've seen what Mahomes has done. Time and time again, he proves that he can win. As much as I hate to say this, the Rams won because Stafford was a little better than Goff. So that's what got them over the hump. But you look at other quarterbacks. I mean, there's plenty of quarterbacks who can win a Super Bowl, but could we have won that Super Bowl if we didn't play the Chiefs? I don't know, man. Like the Bills and Ravens, we just don't seem to beat. So maybe a different AFC team.
Like Kyle is 0-9 against Mahomes, Allen, and Lamar. That's kind of worrisome. They're all mobile quarterbacks, and they all can throw they can beat you both ways,
Yeah.
within the pocket, or they can get out of the pocket. And the Niners don't really have to face that much in the NFC. If you think about like their recent run on who they've beaten in the NFC, Aaron Rodgers was a stationary quarterback. Jared Goff was a stationary quarterback. Jordan Love, kind of stationary.
You get
But
that with Stafford too.
Jaden
Daniel's something else.
Daniels is all of a sudden on the NFC radar. Jalen Hurts can still move around. So the Niners have not been able to play mobile quarterbacks. And again, that could kind of get back to what we were just talking about, that wide nine in that scheme, and always rushing upfield. If Bosa had stayed where he was in that 4th and 1 in the Super Bowl and not just dived in, man, he makes that stop and the Niners are Super Bowl champions. I would like the Niners have brought a little bit of a blitz there. But the Niners don't like to blitz. That's why Steve Wilkes don't got a job anymore, man.
I mean, yeah, but Wilkes was very creative at times, but Kyle just had to cut off on his plans, the way he was doing the plays and all that stuff. But that's the problem when you don't have a lot of your talent out there. How are you going to be able to generate quarterback pressure? You got to have to get a little creative, maybe a little bit of blitz, or maybe do a little bit more than 4-man pressure. Do a little bit more, maybe add a 5-man or somebody to blitz in like a safety or maybe a linebacker or something. But that's one thing we got to evolve more, especially on 3rd down.
If Kyle and John Lynch and Jed York and all the 49er, top brass are watching the playoffs right now, how can they be watching and seeing all these exotic different blitzes late in games? And it's happened to them personally. Super Bowl 54, Spagnuolo brought blitzes in the second half. Super Bowl 58, Spagnuolo brought blitzes in the second half and in the 4th quarter, and it disrupted them. And the Niners couldn't move the ball. They couldn't even get first downs, and it cost them 2 Super Bowls. It just blows my mind that it happened to you personally, and then you're seeing around the league how teams, when they're creative and they disguise a blitz at the right time on third down is such a key in this league. It's almost like a turnover when you don't get it. You have to punt, and the other guys get the ball. And the Niners have just not been a very good team. And the other thing about it is if you blitzing more in practice and you're doing it more, you're showing it to Purdy and you're showing it to that offense. Because they don't blitz at all, CG, then the Niners see it in an actual game and they're like, oh shit, what is this? Well, if you practiced against it, you might know. So yeah. I just think they could be better prepared and be a little bit more diverse than just their scheme.
Yeah, their scheme has a lot of, teams are starting to take notice on Purdy, and now they're looking at different ways how to slow him down. So the way they were doing it, the way Brian Flores is doing it, it can work. I mean, you see it with if you can blitz them off, like do what those other DCs have done, like do some blitz off sync plays, man, like Spagnuolo does, it can actually affect a good quarterback play. But I feel like that's the one thing we had to evolve more. Like, we might have to be a little bit more on blitzing at times. Like, the less blitz percentages, I get that we want to be a little conservative and safe, but there's times where you might need to do that. Might need to blitz a little more just to get those other offense 3 and out or something.
Yeah, if you got the horses, if you have the 2019 49ers, then you could get there with Bosa, Armstead, Buckner, and D Ford. But that doesn't exist anymore. You have Bosa's the only guy that can really rush the passer. Leonard Floyd is okay. You're not getting anything up the middle. So you have to, as a coaching staff, your job is to adapt based on your personnel. If your personnel cannot get pressure with 4 men, then you don't stay stubborn and rushing 4 men, because I don't care how good your defensive backfield is. They can't hold up for more than 3 or 4 seconds. The guys are going to get open in this league. So, it's about adapting and adjusting. And quite frankly, sometimes I don't think the Niners coaching staff does a very good job on that on both sides.
They don't. They kind of seem more unprepared at times. So it's like maybe you could have prepared the offense more on how these other defense are going against, but instead they just make it sound like, oh, they're not going to do the same thing. Well, they do their homework, so you got to get more ready for that. So there's a lot.
And if me and you as content creators can kind of talk about it and know what they're doing, you don't think defensive coaches and offensive coaches that are paid, money to watch film over and over 12, 11 hours a day, that they don't see tendencies? The Niners have gotten kind of predictable in the last few years, and that's something they need to take a look at because in any sport, baseball, basketball, football, hockey, you name it, if you know what the other team is more or less doing, they have a huge advantage on you. Huge.
Oh yeah,
So mix it
there
up.
is there is a huge advantage when it comes to these type of teams doing a lot of extra work because if they're putting a lot of extra hours into the film on a certain player, they must respect them enough to where they could try to limit that guy. So Purdy might have got him off guard, like maybe for like 1.5 year, but now defense are slowly trying to catch on to him. So now it's all about Kyle's going to have to re-evolve more, reinvent himself a little more. Like he's going to have to watch certain plays how that can beat this type of defense instead. Because now, if you do man coverage and you do a little off-sync blitzes, man, that can actually disrupt our offense more.
Yeah, and Kyle has a reputation as being a great play caller, and the key word is reputation. Like you need to be able to reinvent yourself every year. You need to self-analyze yourself and see, and that's why I think he needs more guys in the building that can kind of tell him maybe what he doesn't want to hear. I think Kyle sometimes gets, he wants men that are, coaching staffs that are yes men and comfortable or not going to challenge him too much, but you need those guys in there to say, hey, you know what? Like, I know what you're doing before you even do it. Like, he likes to throw over the middle. He likes play action, and he likes to run the outside zone. Let me ask you this. Okay, I'm a little older than you, so I can go back a few years. So one of the staple plays that the Niners used to run in the Bo Walsh era was a running back screen. It's a very fun – Andy Reid runs it a lot. In fact, he ran it late in the Super Bowl last year on a key third down that helped them win the game. How many running back? I'm not talking wide receiver jet bubble screens. How many running back screens do you see the Niners run under Kyle? Basically, where you let the defense come all in and you just lob it over them, let the offensive line leak out, and you give it to McCaffrey and watch him go. I don't see it much.
We haven't seen it much this year because, last year it was like we were just abandoning that kind of like bread and butter. Like, because the previous other season, like when we went to the Super Bowl, we were actually started doing it more with McCaffrey. But once McCaffrey was out, we just started saying, "Oh, we don't have him, so we're gonna have to change it up."
He's the perfect running back to run that to. That should be a staple of offense. Run it, 2 to 4 times a game.
Yeah, or with the way we're seeing it with Garendo, they could have used it more with Garendo also, but they barely used them limited, man. So
yeah, how many times have you seen the Niners run a counter play or a trap play?
Not many.
No, that's what I mean. Like we're just talking about it now. So if your defensive,
it's like we just go with the same formula, the bland, bro.
The same thing. And so defensive coordinators just like we don't got to worry about that. They might run a jet sweep to a wide receiver, but how about just a sweep to a running back? Just a sweep. I was one of Walsh's. That's Lombardi's old play. The point I'm trying to make is like if you're supposed to be known as a great play caller and a great innovator, then why do we know about 3 to 4 of your basic plays? Play action, outside run zone, dig routes, and curl routes over the middle. Not many post routes on the outside, not many routes to the sidelines, like 20-yard outs, no trap plays, no sweeps, no counters. I mean, you don't have to be the Washington Redskins to run the counter tray, bro. I know they kind of invented it, but it's a nice play. And I just would like to see Kyle be a little bit more creative and have a little bit more to his playbook.
Yeah, I hope by watching the playoff games, he actually gets an idea of what to do this upcoming next season because it seems like he's going to have to reinvent himself. Like a lot of these plays, those are kind of plays where you can actually adjust against that kind of defense. So,
yeah. And then the other thing I would like Kyle to do is he's ignored special teams since he's been the Niner coach. They've never had a good special teams. It's almost – and when he's asked about this in press conferences, he almost dismisses it like, well, we don't want them to make any mistakes or errors. The last guy I remember running a punt or a kickoff for a touchdown was Ted Ginn back in 2011. Special teams is 1/3 of your team. 1/3 of the game. The Niners have lost playoff games because their special teams did not play well. So I've heard from numerous people that go to practices all the time, bro, And they all tell me he doesn't practice it very much. He doesn't spend a lot of time on it.
That's
And
the problem
again,
right there.
and again, if you're not practicing it and you're not detailing it, then it's going to show up on game day. So if you want to win a Super Bowl, which is what our fan base demands and expects, and what our old ownership expected, then you got to have everything tightened up, not just your plays on your call sheet, which is kind of what he's known for.
Yeah, and if they don't practice it that much, that's kind of sad, man. Like, at least try to like emphasize it more, and maybe these guys would actually be more better at that level. But like you said in the playoffs, there was some factors of what cost us our playoff games, like when it came to special teams. But
Kyle,
That Super Bowl alone just haunts me because there was just two special team blunders that really could have been the difference of winning that
yep,
game.
yep,
Like,
yep.
okay, like you know where Daryl Luter kind of touched that ball, bro. That was definitely that could have been the difference between how we could have kept the ball.
That was fluky how that happened, but the more disturbing part was Ray not just falling on it. He
Yep.
tried to pick it up. And if in practice, if the special teams coordinator is like showing film over and over, and in practice they're showing, if the ball's loose, if it happens to hit somebody, don't try to pick it up. Just fall on it. The possession is everything here. And if you emphasize that over and over and over again, then Ray probably does fall on it. But at the heat of the moment, he thought, oh, I'm going to pick this up and make a play. It's a Super Bowl. Watch me. And it bounced, football bounces. You don't know which way it's going to go. Of course, the Chiefs recovered it, and it got them right back into the game.
Yeah, just imagine if we would have made the extra point. It would have been a difference right there. The Chiefs probably would have ran out of time to get a touchdown or something.
Yeah, and that's the thing that's so frustrating is, as good a coach as Kyle is, lately, like when the games are close, I can't speak for you, but me, man, I don't feel comfortable when they get to be close games because I just feel like the Niners tighten up, and because they don't have attention to detail,
it's on the edge.
Something happens. Like this year, Brock was throwing picks late. They were blowing leads late. The only time I feel comfortable when the Niners are up like 17 with like 3 or 4 minutes left, and that's about it.
That gives us some comfortable, but when it comes to like a 10-point lead with maybe 3 or 4 minutes, I'm kind of a little bit sketchy. I'm like, man, we're going to blow this one.
Just because of what we've experienced over the last 8 years or so. Yeah.
Yeah. And like you said, a lot of those plays by Brock Purdy making those mistakes, it's a lot to do with him just running around and trying too much, man. Like maybe just do your check downs. Like we were just saying, if he did some of those, it would cut down his mistakes a little bit.
Yeah, no doubt. No doubt.
I mean, I don't think you see Brady throwing it down the field often when he was playing. I think he did some of the check downs when he had to.
Brady was the master at taking what you were giving him. But he could throw a deep ball and beat you deep. When he had Randy Moss there, he was throwing a nice deep ball. But and Brady knew where everybody was. He just knew the offense so well that he could go, and that's what made Montana great. Both of those quarterbacks were not physically gifted. They both, didn't have the biggest arms in the world, but they knew where this guy, that guy, that guy, and that guy. So they can go through 4 reads within a couple seconds and be able to get, you can't cover everybody on a defense. So that's what made those 2 guys great. Possibly the 2 best of all time.
Yeah, 2 of the best of their era. But that's like comparing Michael Jordan and LeBron James in their era. So
yep.
I feel like okay, Kyle, you got your quarterback. Now you just need to make sure to get him to why does he have to be a hero at times, man? He doesn't have to throw the deep ball at times, man. Just go what the defense gives you, like you just said. It's not that hard, man. Okay, so if Juszczyk's open, throw it to him, or if as soon as we get McCaffrey back, if he's open, just give him the ball.
I didn't understand Kyle when Brock got hurt and they were playing at Green Bay, and I don't think it would have made a difference. They were going to lose anyway.
But Dobbs would have been different.
but Brandon Allen is really better than Dobbs. Really?
That was a joke.
We all saw that and are like, why? What?
And
then the last game of the season against Arizona, it's a meaningless game. Like why? I mean, why wouldn't you run out Tanner Mordecai? Was it Mordecai?
No,
Tanner
Tanner
Mordecai.
Mordecai. Yeah, Tanner Mordecai.
Yeah, he supposedly is a kid that has some talent. He's got a good arm. He's
Very
very
mobile.
mobile. See what you have, like an audition. Like I mean, Dobbs is probably not going to be on your team. It just Kyle does a lot of weird things, man, that I don't
Yeah, he does.
necessarily agree with. I'll be
Yeah.
honest.
Like you don't even get to see what you have with those other guys. Like you even were talking about Jalen Graham. You could have seen more with him than Campbell or Winter. Those two guys. You could have seen maybe if they were doing so well in these games, maybe you can move on with Dre Greenlaw. But now that we're at a conversation with Dre Greenlaw, like, hey man, should we even think about bringing this guy back? Of course, in my mind, he's the heart and soul of our defense when he comes back. Of course,
They have a center. His name escapes me. That's on the practice squad. That's from Michigan.
Drake Nugent.
Thank you. Like he's a big kid. I like Big Ten or formerly Big Ten offensive linemen. They've traditionally been very good players. Why not just have them practice all week with the starters? Throw them out there. There's no need to have what we know and what we understand is very mediocre in McKivitz and Brendel out there. I just didn't understand that whatsoever.
Yeah.
Even Ben Barch when he came in for Banks, it's like we didn't know who this guy was, and then all of a sudden he played and he played well. It's like that's my point. Is these young guys they get an opportunity and they play well. Jacob Cowing, we didn't hear from him all year long, and he was a speed guy that the Niners needed. Why? Because he didn't know your playbook. Okay,
or he can't block or something.
That's yeah. Kyle probably. Can you imagine Kyle having Randy Moss on his team and not playing him because he doesn't block well?
Oh man, that's just terrible coaching. If he had to go through that kind of situation, exactly.
Man.
Yeah, like okay, like you could have seen what you had with Danny Gray if you wouldn't have put him in the doghouse. You could have seen more of Pettis if you would have just gave him more chances. But nope, they just he keeps hitting on these guys and they don't even get a fair chance.
And if you know Danny Gray, according to his film, doesn't block, then don't draft him.
Yeah,
it's that simple. Why would you draft a guy in the third round at wide receiver if he doesn't do the things that the head coach likes? So, yeah. They got some bugs and things that they need to iron out for sure.
Yeah, don't get the guy just because of the talent, but if he doesn't block, then don't get him. Just get somebody who will actually do the job. Like, okay, like when we saw the Ricky Pearsall draft, maybe it was because he can block, but he's kind of shown some when he's healthy. Like I think let's give him a pass for this season because of what he went through. But I think this upcoming season we'll have a better judgment on Ricky Pearsall.
This is a very deep draft for O-line, D-line, and tight ends.
Yeah,
if they take a receiver or running back early, that would just be such a waste because they need to shore up both those lines.
They'll like I said, doghouse.
Yeah, if they trade
first round doghouse.
Yeah, if they can move back CG from like 11 to like say 17 to 20, they could probably get another second rounder in there. Yeah, and now you could still get a really good offensive lineman. Now you have 2 second-round picks, and you can go O-line again, or you can go D-line, or damn, the Niners have been trying to get a backup tight end forever, and nothing has worked out. Because I would love to see that, old New England Patriots, Gronk and Gonzalez, Hernandez. Thank you. Hernandez and Gronk.
That was a good combination back then, but
man,
we need to get one. But I think this tight end class is pretty deep. I know for some of our fans, this is a fan favorite. Tyler Warren is definitely a favorite. I mean, you see that what he did in the.
He's
nice, but I don't think we're gonna get him. So I had to go deep on these realistic draft prospects at tight end. And I don't know if you would agree on this one, but there's quite a few guys that I like that I would say, you know what, if he falls in the third round, let's get this guy. So Mason Taylor is the one guy that comes to my attention because he can block and he's a good complementary tight end. Like, yeah, he's Jason's son, but the tape kind of shows that he can do exactly what Kyle wants.
Mitchell Evans is Notre Dame's tight end, and you might be able to get him like in the 4th or 5th round.
Terrence Ferguson's another good raw tight end from Oregon. Like this guy he can block and he's a physical after the catch. I mean, he's another option that I like. There's other selection options that you can go to. Like there's just, but I just don't think getting Tyler Warren or Loveland are just like, they're probably gonna be first round, or maybe who knows, maybe they slide. Who knows?
Mason Pline is a guy that drafted last year. He was on the practice squad. He's kind of intriguing because isn't he like 6'6", 6'7"?
Big guy that played basketball. Actually, I interviewed him last year, and he was telling me he started mostly basketball for a while before he started doing
football.
See,
I kind of like that because, the Niners have, red zone problems. And when you got a guy 6'6", 6'7", you don't need to have the most perfect, accurate throw. He could box, and you just said he's a basketball guy, so he knows how to box guys out and just go up and get it. So he could be an intriguing prospect. There's another tight end. I don't know his last name. First name Harold.
Harold Fanning from Bowling Green. He's like an undersized tight end he's got the athleticism. He did well in this competition, but I mean, there's a lot of good ones
There's a lot of good ones, yeah. So I would like to see them grab one in the 3rd or 4th round, maybe.
Yeah, there's quite a good ones, but I just think there's a lot of good ones that we can go in the later rounds somehow. Like even the guy from Iowa, Luca. I don't know how you say his name. Luke is another good tight end I've heard of.
Hey, anybody from Iowa,
they're proven.
Two things come well out of Iowa: tight ends and wrestlers.
Yeah, they do. They do.
Doubt. You know what's so frustrating is I used to be a draft guru, CG. I used to love looking at guys, but man, the Niners never draft who I like. So I'm getting frustrated to do all that study because I see them on the board. I'm like, please take this dude.
Oh yeah.
And then they don't. Like I love Zach Frazier. And I love Jackson, and I love Jackson Powers Johnson out of Oregon.
Oh, dude, those were like my choices in the draft. Like I said, hey, if we're not going to get any other players, let's get a center in the 1st round at least.
Yeah, I was even saying centers are not a sexy pick, so they could probably trade back 3 or 4 picks, get a 3rd rounder, and still get that center. And where did Zach Frazier go?
The Steelers, which they do value offensive.
And they drafted 3 offensive linemen, and they all hit. And they did not have the roster the Niners did. And, yeah, I know they were one and done, but they didn't exactly have a quarterback. Oh, yeah. So they value offensive line.
Yeah, they got the offensive lineman, the 2 guys I wanted. Like Frazier was another guy I liked it as another option. And then that one guard from North Dakota or South Dakota State, I believe. He was good. That was the one guy I wanted too. And he was pretty raw. I think that's what we needed, some nasty guys, some mean.
Yeah.
That's some softies.
Yeah, we need some nasty dudes, especially in that middle, that can just move some people and give Brock a nice protection. Who's your favorite tackle coming out of this draft? Offensive tackle.
Who's my favorite tackle? Like as far as draft wise, I know I'm not too big on the Texas guy, but I know that would be the safe pick for us. But if I were to go with my actual favorite offensive tackle that I've heard that his tape pops up is that I think Steph even put it out there. That dude from North Dakota State seems like a guy that finishes the whistle. Okay. What's his name? Gabe Zabel or something. I think that's his name.
So you're not big on Will Campbell?
Will Campbell's raw, but if I had to go big on a certain lineman that I like, I've heard a lot of good things about Josh Simmons, bro. This dude from Ohio State, he kind of seems like the kind of starter that you want from day one. But if we were to go to a scheme fit, the guy from Oregon, Josh Connery, seems like an actual fit to the zone that we run.
Yeah, I'm done with scheme fits, man. Just get me the best player.
That's just the wise choice if they want to go that route.
And Simmons from Ohio State is projected to go, later in the draft. So again, like I said, they can move back from 11, grab Simmons, get another 2nd round, pick, and just get more players. That I'm telling you, hey, I'm an OG, man. The 1986 draft, I know 85 produced Jerry Rice, and he's the GOAT and all that. But go look at the 86 draft and the amount of starters that they got. They got Charles Haley in that draft in the 4th round. Yeah, and they got Kevin Fagan. I mean, they got Larry Roberts. Yeah, Tom Rathman. Yeah, so that's the kind of draft the Niners need.
Yeah, if we want to go offensive line, just get some of the guys from Ohio State or get some guys from the Georgia. Get one of those options, man, because they got some good starters right there. You look at the center from Georgia, Jared Wilson. He probably would be available maybe day 2 or day 3, so he would be a serviceable starting center. Then you got the 2 guards from Georgia also who are considered serviceable also. Then you got a tackle. Dude, they got 5 of their offensive linemen in the draft that you can get right now, and they're better than what we got right now.
And you know what was interesting was I like what Philly did is Philly took that kid Becton, and he was a bust at tackle, and they moved him to guard, and he just became a monster. So, like, the Niners could possibly look the free agent route and maybe get somebody that was kind of on the cheap that maybe didn't quite fit as a tackle, but he's a large dude and he can just move people around and move him to guard. I'm assuming they're not going to bring Banks back, but you never know. So,
yeah,
I would love to have Pooney, a nasty center, and a nasty guard. You know,
I mean, yeah,
definitely.
Okay. If there was an outside option for us, there's not quite a lot of them, but there's like some of the veterans that I've looked at, like the ones Zeitler's like at the age, like kind of like the same age as me, but he kind of like run there's certain guys you can have, but like you said, there's some guys who didn't pan out because of their position, or maybe they were out of position or something.
And draft my boy CG man in the 7th round. Give him a shot.
I was a lineman or a D line for the semi pros a while back, but that was before a lot of the injuries. But yeah, I was a big nasty guy.
Yeah, definitely. You understand line play, and you know how important it is for
it
a
is
team to succeed.
But it is important. But I think, like you said, maybe bringing Ben Barch would probably be the wise choice because he probably won't cost much, and he did pretty well in those 2 games.
Well, let me ask you, as an offensive lineman, like what kind of gave you and the teams you played for more problems? Was it a 3-4 or was it a 4-3 as far as different defensive fronts and different things that a defense can do?
I think the more problems when you as an offensive lineman, I think we've had the most issues when we go against sometimes the 4-3, you have a lot of area of issues, but with the 3-4, there's just more pressure. There is a difference with the 3-4, but when you play a 4-3, it's just mostly you have your one-on-ones.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It's become such a passing league that I'm surprised more teams don't use as their base personnel a 4-2-5. Maybe you take that linebacker off the field, and maybe you have that 5th player be kind of a hybrid, like a safety, like Mustafa. He's a safety, but he could also, because linebackers are smaller and smaller these days. So you have guys that can cover and come up and hit you, rather than the traditional 4-3 defense. Because I'm sorry, like DeAndre Campbell was not. There was better players that you could have put as one of your 11 players on defense, but they felt they had to do it. The roster politics, because they gave him $5 million. He was a veteran.
Kyle knew him.
Yeah, and because Kyle knew him. And again, he's got to stop with that roster politics BS. Put the best 11, put the best 22 people on the field, 11 on offense and 11 on defense. Stop with your favoritism and your Cabo clicks and all that stuff. Stop trying to force Debo the ball, all that stuff. Stop. Do what's best for the 49ers, not for Kyle Shanahan.
Yeah, I agree with you. And usually the most difficult ones that people mostly deal with, when you look at how Baltimore runs a 3-4 defense, right? Don't they always seem to create a lot of pressure the most?
Because you don't know where guys are coming from.
That's the tricky part. If you are as an offensive lineman, you would hate to play on that 3-4 defense mostly because it gives you more fits. But with a 4-3, you just have your natural matchups. Depends if they blitz or not. So you have to really be on point, or on run plays, especially, you got to go quick on your assignments quickly on those plays, or else that one player will get that. Yeah,
I agree, man. Yeah. That's definitely
I feel like center is the most important position to me. It's the quarterback. You have to you got to do your check downs on everything, make sure everything goes in well. Brendel just doesn't seem to have it, and I just get tired of Chris Forrester, man. This dude keeps defending this guy, man.
Oh my God,
I can't watch his conference. I can't watch this dude's conference. His excuses.
He's horrible. Like they ask him straight up, like, why do you like Brendel? And he tries to give this 3 5 minute answer about why he's good. Like he was a Pro Bowl alternate 2 years ago. That was 2 years ago, man. We're talking about right now. He's a
Even if
smaller guy.
yeah,
We all watched the all 22 film. Well, not all of us. Some of us do. And this dude gets pushed back by larger defensive tackles. I've never understood, CG, why, like you just said, the center is the quarterback of the line.
yeah.
He is the protection in the shortest distance between the defensive and the offensive side of the ball.
He checks down with alignments. He checks down, communicates with them. And
right. But, and I get it. Offensive tackles block the best pass rushers, so they're important. But the pass rushers are further away than the defensive tackle is. And the offensive tackles do not call out, the coverages and the line stunts and all that stuff.
They call for protections too. They gotta make sure the protection's properly the right way, because I remember as an offensive lineman with the communication, sometimes the center would just tell you, hey, you need to go do this play.
I think the center is just as, if not more important than tackles, to be honest.
It is.
With the guards being, last out of the group. But
you see the difference when we had Alex Mack. He was a difference, but now that he's retired, you go with Brendel. That was just a bad idea, just not to have an option and just give Brendel the starting job for no reason.
What do you think about Dahlman coming over as a center from the Falcons?
Oh, I like that, man. His dad
played for the Niners.
Played for us for once upon a time and played in
Bingo.
Played in good old Palma High School towards my neck of the woods of where I used to grow up at.
I wanted the Niners to draft him, but now he's a vet and he's not too old. I want to say he's like 26.
He's got a lot of experience, and plus he's more of a better proven center at this point.
Man,
and I know NFL DNA. He's got the DNA just like his pops.
Yeah, and he's a center, so he's not going to be ridiculous as far as a contract goes. But
I hope he brings up his father along as a package deal and get rid of Chris Forrester, please.
Please, yeah. Like
bring your pops with us, man. Come on, like if we get Drew Dahlman, get Chris Dahlman along, man. Just first, Brendel can pack your stuff. Get out of here.
I would be juiced by that move.
I'll pop the champagne.
No doubt, man.
Yeah, we can go on all day about topics and here and there. I know you got only like a few more minutes, but I feel like in this draft it's gonna have to be important. We're gonna have to go more in the trenches more before we go on those skill players. But I
agree 1,000%, man. They have to show that they've been ignoring it too long. They've been they've been thinking that their scheme can always get them by and they can get by with average offensive linemen because this play is going to work and, but sometimes plays don't work and you need linemen to hold up a little bit longer. And quite frankly, a lot of the reasons when I get on other shows and we talk about it, is like, why don't the Niners ever throw the ball deep very often? Is it Purdy's lack of arm? And I'm like, hey, the offensive line needs to hold up for about 3 to 4 seconds.
Hold up a little more. You got to have better linemen.
And other than Trent and Pony, like they got 3 guys that cannot hold up. So, if you want to hit them deep plays and show the defense different things like we're talking about, then damn it, stop expecting linemen in the 5th, 6th, and 7th rounds to do the job. You need to be able to get those studs in rounds 1 and 2. And that's why I like trading back and getting 3 picks in the first 2 rounds and taking at least 2 linemen out of them.
Yeah, I think that's a smart approach. And maybe the reason why we haven't been successful going deep often is because that offensive line doesn't hold up well. So you see, since Brock is more of he could do checkdowns if he has to, but he has to wait on that play to process and go deeper. And you don't have that with a good offensive lineman holding up well. At times they could hold up okay, but like you said, we got to go trenches earlier.
I'm telling you, all they need to do is look at the Final Four. The Commanders, the Eagles, the Chiefs, and the Bills, they all have good offensive lines.
They have good offensive linemen, and the timing's perfect, and you see how they were able to run the ball. You saw how the timing was for their quarterbacks. That does matter.
And the last thing I'll mention is, Purdy does have a little bit of a reputation of not playing the greatest in bad weather. So if you have a dominant offensive lines travel well. You can go to Green Bay. You can go to some colder weather spots, Philadelphia, in January. Yeah. the offensive line can travel, where you don't have to rely on Purdy dropping back 40 times in
No, but he
8
just needs to be
degrees.
smart on it.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, O-line, if they don't shore that up and we're back to where we were, it's hard to take the Niners seriously as a contender. So this is one of the biggest off seasons in a long time for the Niners to get back to relevance.
Oh yeah, for sure. So before we end this, man, so what player or draft crush do you like for the Niners to get, man? Like, since draft season's already coming.
Man, my draft crush they won't be able to get is Abdul Carter. God, man,
that seems like a Micah Parsons.
He does, man. He has bend. He gets around those offensive linemen, and he's physical and fast. He brings everything to the table. If he's still there at 6 or 7, I'm gonna be like, oh, I know I want to trade back, but maybe move up. I mean, that's like, damn. But I also am. Well, I know this is really, really a reach, but if somebody offered you 2 first-rounders for Nick Bosa, would you do it? And and with one of those first-rounders, you take his replacement in Carter. Now you'd have 3 first-rounders. I don't know.
That's a lot. That's a lot for a turnaround. But I don't think they plan on replacing Bosa. I mean, it's just like we paid them.
They would have to because he's their only pass rusher. But if you were able to get 2 first-rounders for Bosa, and you were to use one of them on Carter, like he's a cheaper and who knows?
Financially, it would be smart, but then we would have to eat some of that cap space. That's the problem.
Yeah. It's some of those deals and hypothetically are easier said than done for sure.
Yeah, for sure. And before we end this, man, tell everybody where they can find your social media platform and.
Yeah, I'm on X at just Los DLF, and then I co-host NorCal Sports Network part time with Danny and Lou and Bora, my boys over there. We cover the Niners, we cover the Warriors, we cover the Giants. So as it sounds, NorCal Sports Network. So I'm over there once in a while, and I'm always on X at Los DLF.
Oh yeah, for sure, man. I got you guys subscribed there. I mean, I guess I just check out every now and then. But yeah, dude, you guys got a good content. Keep it going, man. Hopefully we catch up pretty soon. Maybe we can do a little bit of a draft breakdown when it's over or something. Like when the draft's over, you can have some draft prospects that you like so far from the draft.
Man, let's do it. I'd love to talk draft. Better after than before, because I think we're going to be disappointed on guys that we like that get picked. Yeah, no doubt. CG, appreciate you, man. Thanks for having me on, bro.
Anytime, man. And thank you guys for tuning in.